Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for refusing to sit next to a picture of my late husband and telling my daughter I will not be going to her wedding if that is her plan? My late husband and I didn't have a good relationship. He struggled with alcoholism and ultimately drank himself to death after I divorced him. After some time, I remarried, but my daughter doesn't get along with my new husband. They have a strained relationship, and I married him while she was in college. She has hated that I have remarried. My daughter is getting married soon, and while I'm excited for her, I've had some concerns about how she's planning the wedding. She mentioned wanting to include a picture of my late husband at the ceremony, which I completely understand as a way to honor him. However, she also wants me to sit next to his picture during the ceremony and my husband would sit elsewhere. I told her that I'm not comfortable with that arrangement. I also learned she wanted me to sit with a picture at the family table and my husband wouldn't be sitting there either. I told her no. She got upset and said I was being selfish and disrespectful to her and her father's memory. I told her that if that's her plan, I won't be able to attend the wedding. She called me a jerk and now family is involved. Top comments. Info: to clarify, she wants you to sit alone with a photograph rather than with your husband. I feel like I must be missing something, because that's absurd. OP replies. Yes. Not the a-hole. A simple compassion exercise would hopefully solve this. Imagine things were reversed, and she were asked to attend a wedding with her fiancé, but would not be able to be in proximity to her fiancé. Instead, she must sit next to an image of a toxic ex who the bride had a great relationship with. Wouldn't she find that very disrespectful? Wouldn't she feel hurt by someone who loves her asking her to disrespect her partner and herself? Something brides and grooms need to learn is that their big day is not all about them. They don't get to run roughshod over human decency to fulfill some strange fairy tale. That's not reality. I think you've extended plenty of grace in understanding that your daughter had a positive relationship with her father, and therefore his memory would be included in her wedding. In asking you to actively disrespect your husband, she is crossing a line. Your boundary is reasonable. I'm so sorry your daughter is not currently capable of processing basic human empathy. Honestly, since you divorced before he passed, he's not even your late husband, he's your ex-husband. She can honor his memory all day long, but it would be ridiculous to sit you next to your ex instead of your spouse even if your ex was still alive. I could see a modest compromise of sitting next to the picture and your spouse during the ceremony if you feel comfortable with that, but eating dinner with a picture of your ex instead of your actual spouse is absurd. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It's 100% fair enough that she feels inclined to honor her father at her wedding, but there's definitely a limit to what it's reasonable of her to expect from you in regards to it. Particularly expecting your husband to sit elsewhere while she seats you next to your ex-husband's photo, yikes. You set a perfectly reasonable boundary and the fact that she doesn't like the choice in front of her is her problem and the fact that she's completely unbothered by your explicit discomfort with her plans makes her the selfish and disrespectful one in this scenario. Not the a-hole. Of course she wants to remember her dad and have him present at her wedding. I'm sure the loss is painful and significant as she approaches this important day. But having you sit next to a photo, especially considering your history with him, is ghoulish. You divorced and that's not a light decision. You had to make a hard choice in life to no longer tie yourself to him, and having you sit next to a photo of him ties you back together in his death. There are ways of honoring the dead and remembering them during milestones, but your daughter doesn't get to disrespect the living in order to do so. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my roommate his girlfriend can't stay over every weekend after she ate all my food, again? So, I own my apartment and rent out the second room to a buddy of mine. Everything was cool at first, but lately, his girlfriend has been staying over every weekend. I wouldn't mind so much if it wasn't for the fact that every time she's here, she helps herself to my stuff, mainly my food. I meal prep for the week, and I buy my own groceries. It's not like I don't share sometimes, but I've noticed that after every weekend she's here, a bunch of my food is gone. Snacks, leftovers, even stuff like my eggs and bread, just gone. I've tried hinting at it, like casually mentioning how much food I go through, but it keeps happening. Last weekend, I had a really long week at work, so I treated myself to some nice takeout and planned to save half of it for lunch the next day. The next morning, I open the fridge, and it's gone. I texted my roommate, and he said, "Oh, my girlfriend was hungry, so she ate it." Sorry, man. That was the last straw. I told him we needed to talk and said that while I'm okay with her visiting sometimes, she can't keep staying over every weekend and eating my food. I told him it's not fair, especially since she's not contributing to groceries or utilities. He got defensive, saying that since he pays rent, she should be able to stay over whenever, and I'm making a big deal out of just a few snacks. I stood my ground and told him she needs to stop coming over so often unless they start buying their own food and being more considerate. Now, he's pissed at me, and I'm getting the cold shoulder. Am I the a-hole for putting my foot down after his girlfriend kept eating all my food? Top comments. Not the a-hole. But dude, don't hint. Hinting often fails and then everyone ends up irritated, because you hold it in until you snap and the other person may not understand you have a problem until you're well and truly mad at them, so they feel like you went 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. Clear, assertive communication is a far better way to go about things, especially with a roommate. Not the a-hole. It's your food, but at the same time, instead of hinting about your missing food, I think you should have straight up told her that you'd appreciate it if she stopped helping herself to something that's yours. If she continues to do it after that, then it becomes a problem. Not the a-hole. Your friend is pissed because his girlfriend can only stay at your apartment if she doesn't steal and if she'll start being considerate. How on earth would that be an unreasonable request? Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to share my inheritance with my entitled sister after she cut me off for 10 years? So, here's some backstory. My 28M, older sister, 35F, cut me off completely about 10 years ago when I was 18, shortly after our parents died in a car accident. She basically abandoned me during one of the toughest times of my life because I wasn't mature enough, and she wanted to live her life freely. No calls, no texts, no support. I had to work multiple jobs to support myself and pay for college, all on my own. Fast forward to a month ago, I inherited a substantial amount of money from our maternal grandfather. It was an unexpected inheritance, but it's changed my life. Suddenly, my sister is back in the picture, acting like we're the closest family in the world. She starts hinting at financial struggles and how tough life has been for her. I told her outright that I wasn't interested in sharing my inheritance, especially after she abandoned me for a decade. She got extremely angry and accused me of being selfish and ungrateful because we're family. Am I the a-hole for standing my ground and refusing to give her any money? My friends are saying I'm not in the wrong, but a few family members think I should be more forgiving. Top comments. Definitely not the a-hole. She cut you out of her life for 10 years, and now the only reason she has reconnected with you is because she wants your money. If she cared about family, she would have been there for you when you needed her. OP replies. Exactly. If she actually cared about family, she would have been there when I needed her most, not when there's money involved. Not falling for it now. Not the a-hole. She can't play the family card after being no contact for over 10 years. Didn't grandfather leave her anything, or does she feel entitled to dip into your share too? OP replies. Exactly. She can't suddenly play the family card now. And nope, my grandfather left her nothing, so she's trying to take from my share. Nope, not the a-hole. I wouldn't give her any of it. If she couldn't be there for you for 10 years, she has no business trying to come back and act like you two are besties. OP replies. Right? She can't just pretend everything's fine after 10 years of silence, especially now that there's money on the table. Not happening. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents to forget it after they asked me to reconsider plans because of my sister again? My parents have me 16M, and my sister, 15F. When we were younger things were okay. But then when she was 7 she got bullied by a kid in her class. The bullying didn't last long, but afterward she changed. She struggled with her self-esteem and she still feels bad about herself and hates herself, and it made our parents really go into protective mode. They let her choose where we got takeout for a month afterward, and they cancelled what we had talked about for my birthday party and instead decided we all needed a family vacation instead, but she got to pick the location even though we went for my birthday. I didn't have fun. My parents knew I wouldn't like it. They told me she needed this and we needed to help pick her up. They told me I could spend time with friends another day and do something small with them. That never happened even though I asked. She was still in a bad place after a few months, and then my dad went no contact with his mom, grandmother, because she decided she was going to leave all her grandkids something, but my sister, the only granddaughter, wasn't included, and she said some nasty stuff about boys being more special to her, in front of my sister. Which did a real effed up thing to my sister. But it made my parents really go crazy on the, let's make sure sister gets put first always. It was more of the same where she got to make decisions for us all. I didn't get the chance to do it ever. And the few times I would make plans with friends but my sister wanted me around, my parents would ask me to put her first and cancel the plans. A couple of times I said no, but my parents made me cancel anyway. It keeps getting worse too and still happens. A few months ago I told them that stuff was pushing me away because I felt less important and less cared for by them. I also told them I felt like my sister got to make too many decisions for me. I told them I was so ready to just move away and get away from them, and it hurt, but it felt like my sister's family instead of mine. They said they were sorry, they told me they'd do better, they'd get my sister a better therapist to help her so we could all move on. I had plans to go to a Halloween party with friends next week. My sister had plans with friends, but after a panic attack they cancelled on her and mocked her about the panic attack. She asked our parents if we could go away that same weekend and spend time as a family. So my parents asked me to cancel plans and go, and they tried to apologize, but I said forget it, to forget making it up to me because I don't believe them and I'm done. I'll do what they want and I'll suck it up for 2 more years and I'll walk away because I'm so done. I wouldn't hear my parents out and they got frustrated with me. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. I am so sorry you're in this situation. Your sister's issues have to do with her crappy friends. No amount of spoiling on the part of your parents is going to make up for her crappy friends. I hope she's getting some kind of treatment. If not, they're failing her. They're definitely failing you. Not the a-hole. OP replies. She's in therapy, but I don't think the therapist is helping her. Maybe she's not fully honest, or maybe the therapist isn't working for her specifically. But I see her getting worse, and stuff in general with us all gets worse, and I'm more resentful because of what it all means. Not the a-hole. Your feelings are valid, and it's understandable to feel frustrated. It's important for your parents to recognize your needs too. They should work on balancing things better. OP replies. They said they would, but at the first sign of trouble they gave in and wanted me to cancel big plans and plans I had already spent money for, on a costume. Next story. Am I the a-hole for flipping out on my mom for talking to my son about becoming a big brother? My 38M wife, 38F, and I have one child together, a 6-year-old son. When we got married, we agreed we both only wanted one child. A few years ago, my wife got her tubes tied. I also got a vasectomy last year, just to cover all bases across the board. We didn't announce this to the family, but it also wasn't a secret. We've had a few people ask if we're having another, and that's usually when it comes up. I am one of 6 siblings. Our mother was one of 8 kids. Most of my siblings have had at least 3 children, if not more. Only my brother is also one and done. Our mother struggles to accept this and has said several times that we'll change our minds. Even knowing that my wife and I physically cannot have more children, she'll always bring up adoption or say that my procedure could be reversed, etc. My brother and I always shut it down, have told her we're not changing our minds, etc. Recently, she was babysitting my son while my wife and I went out. We picked him up after and on the car ride, out of nowhere, my son started crying and asking if we were having another baby. We said, no. He said that his grandmother kept asking him if he wanted a baby sister and saying that we should have another baby, he could be a big helper, etc. We got home rather quickly, consoled him, and promised him we weren't having another baby, and that his grandmother never should have told him this. I called my mom and got on her about this, telling her she stooped low by getting our son involved. She said that we're overreacting and him crying over potentially getting another sibling is ridiculous and we're raising a spoiled child. I argued no, he's a sensitive kid who doesn't do great with change, and she scared him. I told her that until I can trust that she won't say these things to him, her babysitting privileges have been revoked and she'll only be around him if my wife or I are there. My brother backs me up on this. Apparently our mother tried the same thing with his son, and it led to a similar argument on their end. Our sisters think we're overreacting and that this is a natural question, and my mom is right that it shouldn't have upset my son so much. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. This is not about your son being too sensitive or whether you want/can have another child. This is about your mother going ridiculously over the lines and crossing boundaries. If she is going to cross this kind of boundary, what other boundaries is she going to cross? What else is she likely going to say to your son in the future in an effort to get her away? Your mother manipulated a little kid all for her benefit, and that's just not right. Tell your sisters that they have nothing to do with this, because they don't. This is 100% on your mother and she deserves to lose the babysitting privileges. All they're trying to do here is blame the victim and protect the person who crossed the line. The fact that she doesn't even seem apologetic is very concerning. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not agreeing to sit and watch an entire TV show with my daughter as a bonding thing? My 28-year-old daughter Jessica moved back in with me and her father, my husband, 6 months ago. She split with her live-in girlfriend and will save up at home. The one big difference she and I have always had is that she loves watching TV. She is always watching something, or as she says, doing a rewatch, and all of that. I never really got into TV. Jessica started doing a rewatch of a show she must have seen a dozen times, Gilmore Girls. It is a show about a very entitled and bratty mother and daughter who constantly yell and scream at each other and everyone around them. Over the years while she has watched it, I've seen enough to know that I just do not like it. I think the show relies on the viewer to find the yelling matches endearing or the quirky cast of side characters to be charming. It's just not for me. I could explain more about what I don't like, but I don't think anyone wants that. But Jessica asked me if we could do this one together because it would be a great mother/daughter bonding time. I asked her how we would be bonding by sitting down and watching the TV, and she said it would just be the experience. I told her that I'm sorry, but I just genuinely dislike the show and that I am not interested in watching hours and hours of TV to begin with. I told her that I would be happy to watch a movie with her every week. She didn't want to do that. And now I've hurt her feelings and she's angry with me because I won't sit and watch a TV show I dislike with her. I don't like to hurt her feelings, but I also cannot imagine how much time I'd be wasting just sitting there watching a show about overly privileged people screaming at each other. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I just want to make a few things clear, since there are some wild leaps in the comments. We do spend time together, and over the years, and now, I've done many things with her that I wasn't all that interested in. I've seen Taylor Swift 3 times, and it wasn't because I love her. Top comments. She's probably really sad about splitting up with a partner she shared a life with. It's more about that than the TV show. When my kids are sad or otherwise vulnerable, I say yes to a lot of together time I would normally try to wriggle out of LOL. You definitely shouldn't feel pressured to watch every single GG episode, but maybe suffer through a few if that's what she needs right now. Obviously giving her a place to live is already doing a lot for her, and I'm not saying you're being unreasonable, but from an outsider's perspective you've got a small blind spot when it comes to an emotional need she has right now. OP replies. Oh, I know she's still hurting from the split. The first month after she moved back in, she didn't really do much other than work and watch Criminal Minds. Her dad really likes that show, so they ended up watching a bunch of it together, and I think I watched a few episodes with her as well. And for what it's worth, I don't count giving her a place to live as a big thing. She's my kid, she will always have a place in my home so long as I'm alive. No a-hole here. You're allowed to not like the show, but have you suggested any alternate activities to do together? Your daughter was reaching out for connection, and hoping that a show that is about the strong bond between a mother and daughter would be good for relating to her own mother. And you basically shat all over her offer. My guess is there's a reason she enjoys the fantasy of a strong mother-daughter relationship in Gilmore Girls. Opie replies. I said in the post that I offered to watch movies with her, so there's one. We also already go hiking fairly often, just the two of us. Occasionally her dad or best friend comes. She comes shopping with me every few weeks, we cook together most weekends. I do spend time with her, especially with her living here. You know this isn't really about the TV show, right? I once watched 3 seasons of a show I detested simply because my early 20s son asked me to. It was about him wanting to spend quiet time with mom, sharing something he was interested in with me. We watched, we talked, we made fun of goofy plot lines, we laughed. I still hate the show, but I wouldn't trade that time with him for the world. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.